Howdy. This is the Views from the Schott podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller. And today, it is Saturday, December 20th, 2025. And I wish you a very, very, very happy Go Caroling Day. On today's show, we recap the Ohio State and North Carolina matchup that just happened this afternoon down in Atlanta. The Buckeyes fall by 1 point against the Tar Heels, 71-70, the final score in this game. We will recap absolutely everything. I will give you my thoughts on the game. I will give you my thoughts on Caleb Wilson. I will give you my thoughts on North Carolina. I will give you my thoughts on Ohio State and what happened on that final possession that led to a turnover for Ohio State, and then that final possession where the Buckeyes can't get a score with about 4 seconds left to go in the game. John Mobley Jr., he misses a three-pointer. Devin Royal comes away with the rebound, but Ohio State still unable to score. They end up losing this game by 1 point. It's the second game now that they've lost this season where it comes down to the last shot, and Ohio State falls to 8-3 in this one. Look, bunch of new listeners and subscribers after the last show. Had a feeling it may go that way. So this is your only Ohio State basketball exclusive podcast, recapping and previewing every single game Ohio State plays across the season. So subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you like the video on YouTube. If you're here on YouTube right now, please hit the thumbs up button. Please like it. That helps grow the show a bunch and would really, really appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Give a 5-star review. Can't let the Nut House win. And of course, Views from the Schott podcast.substack.com. You can go there completely free. It's all good. Sign up for free. If that's what's right for you, you can do that. You can also sign up for the Substack Insider Chat as well, where I drop a bunch of news and nuggets and scoops throughout the weeks, including on Tuesday, I shared, hey, look, guys, rotation's going to change. Starting lineup, Amari Bynum, there's a lot of conversation about him getting the chance to start in this game. Lo and behold, he does. A whole lot of other great insight there as well. So please go there, even just for free. It's a great spot to be. Last but not least, you may see if you're on YouTube, and you may hear some additional pauses from me. I'm a little under the weather, okay? Slightly. It's just a cough. I feel completely fine. I hope my voice can make it. I have a cough drop in my mouth currently. Don't pay too much attention to it, okay? I'm hoping that it holds everything at bay during the show. But if I'm 70%, well, that's better than 0%. So that said, let's get into a very, very tough loss for Ohio State. The Buckeyes lose this game 71-70. I'm going to get into a lot of thoughts on what happened at the very end of the game. That'll come later on in the show. I usually start the show with key stats in this game that led to the outcome. And in this one, it's pretty dang simple. You lose by 1 point. There was one player who was head and shoulders better than everyone else in this game, and it was Caleb Wilson. When Caleb Wilson committed to North Carolina, I think he had Kentucky. He obviously had Ohio State there in his cut list as well. There was no real hope that Ohio State and Jake Diebler was going to land Caleb Wilson in his recruiting cycle, and yet you still hoped, and you see why Ohio State so sorely could have needed Caleb Wilson in this game. He has been this year one of the best freshmen, one of the most impactful freshmen and players overall in college basketball this season. And in this game, he made his presence felt. 20 points, 15 rebounds by the time this game concludes. In the second half alone, he scored 16 points. He finishes the game 9 of 16 from the field. Ohio State just did not have an answer for Caleb Wilson in this game. In the second half especially is where he really got hot. I thought in the first half, you look at Amari Bynum, he starts in this game. We'll talk about Amari Bynum later in the show, but I thought Amari Bynum and Ohio State as a whole, they did pretty solid work on Caleb Wilson defensively there in the first half. He didn't make a lot of shots in the first half. He didn't seem like he was one of the best freshmen in all of America in the first half, but unfortunately in the second half, it's where he got really hot. He had 5 offensive rebounds. He destroyed Ohio State in the second half on the glass, led to a bunch of points for North Carolina. in the second half as well. And if it wasn't for Caleb Wilson, Ohio State probably wins this game. Even if they hold Caleb Wilson at bay in the second half, at least in a similar way they did in the first half, Ohio State still probably has a really, really good shot to win this game. They already had a really good shot to win this game. They lost by 1. They probably win the game. Caleb Wilson, when you look at everything else, when you look at the final possessions from Ohio State, you look at the score, the dunk from Vasar there at the end of the second half, the final point scored in the game, you can look at all that. I think in this game, it was Caleb Wilson. And you can look at the coaching. You can blame Jake Diebler. You can blame anyone else on Ohio State. Caleb Wilson is just a really, really good basketball player. So Ohio State loses this game by 1 point, in large part due to the fact that Caleb Wilson was insane in this one. And I have my overall thoughts on the game that we'll get into with takeaways, but I'm just starting with the key stats in this one. Overall, again, I think it starts and ends with Caleb Wilson. Ohio State just was not good in the second half guarding Caleb Wilson in this game. That was a deciding factor, I think, in this one. It's disappointing for Ohio State. This is a game that I'm sure they would say we feel like we should have won, but at the end of the day, you didn't do enough against Caleb Wilson, so you lose this game, and everyone on Twitter is angry. Second key stat in this game, Ohio State allowed 14 second chance points in this one. That's not a crazy number, but it's enough when you allow 71 points. It's enough to make a difference. It's the third most they've allowed in a game this season. 8 of those second chance points came in the second half. Again, a lot of it coming from Caleb Wilson. They allowed 12 offensive rebounds in this game overall, where on the flip side, Ohio State on the glass in this game was really good. We'll talk about that later on. Ohio State on the offensive glass, they had 13 offensive rebounds. So it's not like Ohio State got punished or anything on the glass or they were out physical. I talked a lot about that on Twitter throughout this game as I tweeted through it. But Ohio State, the fact that they come through with 13 offensive rebounds, North Carolina has 12, that's a key stat. But the biggest stat outside of that is the fact that Ohio State kept pace with North Carolina on the offensive glass. The biggest difference, second chance points. North Carolina scored 14. Ohio State could only manage 7. When they had one more offensive rebound, they had half the second chance scoring production. That is another key stat that I think causes Ohio State to lose this game. You had the opportunities. You pulled in the offensive rebounds. Christoph Tilley was great on the glass in this game. Devin Royal as well was great on the glass. But offensive rebounds only mean so much. Yeah, you get an additional shot on the possession, and that really helps, and it stiff arms North Carolina from being able to get another shot up because they don't have the ball, and it melts some time away as if that matters. It only matters if you have the lead. Ohio State led in this game, let's see, for 5 minutes and 9 seconds. Not enough, obviously. You can lead for 5 minutes and 9 seconds. You don't lead at the end of the game. Doesn't matter. But they only led for 5 minutes in this game. So it's not like offensive rebounds helped you keep North Carolina from scoring because you had to score. But the biggest difference here, the offensive rebounds that North Carolina was able to gobble up in this game led to points. For Ohio State, it didn't. Huge reason why the Buckeyes lose this game. Ohio State three-point shooting is a problem. They went 4 of 20 in this game, shooting from behind the three-point line. The fourth three they made, by the way, you remember it just as well as I do. It was that John Mobley Jr. 3 with 48 seconds left to go in the second half. Not in the first half, in the second half. So they basically made 3 3-pointers in this entire game outside of the John Mobley Jr. 3 that he finally made in crunch time with under a minute left to go. That was the only 3-pointer made in the second half by Ohio State. Bruce Thornton, we'll talk about him on this show. He was 0 of 4 in the game from deep. Christoph Tilley, again, no production from the 3-point line for Christoph Tilley. He goes 0 of 3. Let's take a look at the stats on Christoph Tilley. Let's refresh our memory on where Christoph Tilley is from the 3-point line this season. So he has not made a 3-pointer since November 25th. He has now missed, let's do some quick math here, 6, 8. He's now missed his last 11 threes, and since going 1 of 2 against IU Indy in the first game of the year, He is now 1 of 5, 0 of 6, 0 of 3, 1 of 4, 1 of 3, 0 of 2. No attempts against Northwestern. Okay. 0 of 4, 0 of 2, and then in this one, 0 of 3. Christoph Tilley, I'm not going to tell you he's been a disappointment for Ohio State. I'm not going to tell you he's been bad. I'm not going to tell you I'm not happy that Christoph Tilley is at Ohio State, because there's a lot of good that he has brought to Ohio State this year. In the insider chat that we've got on Substack, someone commented and said, is it time to call it on Christoph Tilley and Brandon Knoll? We'll talk about Brandon Knoll. Christoph Tilley, no, he's still bringing a lot to Ohio State. Christoph Tilley in this game, he still rebounded well, and he finishes with a double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds. He had 3 assists as well. He's sharing the ball well at center, but he's not been good from 3, obviously. You look at Tayson Chapman, he had a really good look there in the first half. He missed his shot. Brandon Knoll misses both of his attempts from 3. They only tried 6 3-pointers in the second half, which I get if you're cold. I get that. I would like to see more 3-point shooting during the second half as well. I said that in our insider chat, which I love, by the way. We had over 100 messages sent in that thread during the game. Everyone talking, everyone giving their thoughts, and we box out the crazy. All the crazy on Twitter, it's not there. That's a nice perk of the insider chat. But I said during the game, I wish Ohio State would take more threes here in the second half. North Carolina, they made 8 in the game. Ohio State really had a chance to win this game had they taken some more 3-pointers in the second half. They found success, though. They got into the paint. They got to the cup. They got in range where they score a lot, which is inside the 3-point line. And it worked in the second half. I wonder. I wonder what this game would have looked like if they replaced some of the shots they took from inside and they take some shots from deep. Devin Royal, 18 points, 8 rebounds in this game. He was perfect from long range. The only player who really was good from the 3-point line in this game. John Mobley Jr. was 2 of 6. That's not great, especially given the volume, but Devin Royal goes 2 for 2. He quietly is still among the most consistent and productive shooters from deep for Ohio State this year. Did not have that on my bingo card. He ended up waning down the stretch a little bit. He had 6 points in the second half. Obviously, he had his prayer blocked at the buzzer there at the end of the game. But Devin Royal was really, really good for Ohio State in this one overall. I think you look at Christoph Tilley, again, I already mentioned him, 12 and 10. He did his job. 4 of 9 from the field. If you take out those 3-point shots, he's 4 of 6 from the field. Continues to be good up close at the rim, in the paint, continues to be great, sharing the ball well, comes up with 10 rebounds in this one as well, which I've got a lot of thoughts on that. But overall, I think you saw a good game from Devin Royal, good game from Christoph Tilley. Bruce Thornton, he ends up finishing with 16 points in this game, 7 of 16 from the field. Again, he missed all 4 of his shots from behind the 3-point line. He has 4 rebounds. He has 4 assists. You can tell he was really trying to get going in this game. He had a stretch there for Ohio State where he made a bunch of shots in the second half. Let me actually find when that was for Ohio State. Please hold. Bruce Thornton. Here we go. So he makes a layup with 10:58 left to go in the second half. Makes another layup for Ohio State with 9:26. Makes another shot in the paint with 7:55 left to go. He had three straight field goals made for Ohio State. Then we saw Devin Royal make a shot. And then Bruce Thornton gets to the free throw line and he makes 2 free throws from there. He made a jumper as well with 2:23 left to go in the second half. So he gave you a better game than at halftime. I said on Twitter, you need more from Bruce Thornton in the second half. He needs to take over. He had the chances there and he tried, I think, a little bit. It wasn't coming in this game for Ohio State. So you needed more from him. But in terms of overall player performance, yeah, Devin Royal, he was solid in this game. Christoph Tilley was solid. I don't think you can complain with what Bruce Thornton did, especially the shots that he made when he made them. They were really big for Ohio State. In this one, last note here, man, that flagrant foul on Henry Vasar, that really had the chance to change the game. And quite frankly, it did. Ohio State trailed by 7 at that point. They get the foul, which I don't know how you don't call that live. As I'm watching that, it's not one where someone flopped. It's not like Christoph Tilley had a little bit of incidental contact, which sure, the contact was incidental. It's not like it was just a light brushing of an elbow to the chin. He got clocked. He got absolutely clocked on that one. So after they review, Christoph Tilly, he makes both of his free throws, which was huge. And then Ohio State has a small but mighty run for the Buckeyes, 7-2 run that showed Ohio State could still be in the game. And then from there, Ohio State was never out of the game. That was a turning point in this one. And if Ohio State would have won this game, you would look back at that play, the flagrant foul, which Vasar has to play the rest of his game with 4 fouls as well. That was huge. That was absolutely huge for Ohio State. Would I have liked to see Ohio State attack him with 4 fouls? Sure. Defensively, you could see he walled up. He wasn't going to play aggressively defensively. But man, that flagrant foul really, if you didn't watch the entire game until the flagrant foul, and then you watch the end of the game, that's all you really needed to see. That was how this game really wound up going. Was from that point forward, Ohio State couldn't quite take advantage in this one. So, takeaways that I've got from this game. Amari Bynum, let's talk about him again. I gave people in the insider chat, and I even said on the show this week that, look, inside the shot right now, as they prepare for Ohio State against North Carolina, they're considering what the starting lineup is going to look like. And not just that, they're also considering what are the rotations going to look like? How do we get going offensively? How do we get better in the first half? And part of that ended up being Amari Bynum starting for Ohio State. In this game, he has 11.6 rebounds before fouling out. He goes 5 of 11 from the field. He was really, really solid on Caleb Wilson in the first half. Again, it seemed like he ran out of gas there in the second half. Caleb Wilson also just scorching hot in the second half. So probably a combination of both there where Bynum runs out of steam. It's not like he hasn't played the minutes this year. He's played the minutes. That I don't think that was necessarily an issue, but Bynum played well. He played well enough in this game, had a big dunk there in the first half. He really kind of set the tone for Ohio State early in terms of physicality and rebounding. But Amari Bynum, he gets the start. And my next takeaway, again, anytime, it's been now probably a month where we talk about Amari Bynum and then we talk about Brandon Knoll. So Brandon Knoll has disappeared. He has disappeared from Ohio State basketball. Ever since that huge game he had against Northwestern, he has not done much for Ohio State. And I don't think there's really any reason to believe that we're going to see Brandon Knoll in the starting lineup again in the short term, maybe for the rest of the year. I don't know. He couldn't even be trusted in crunch time. The final minute of the game, Brandon Knoll's not playing. He's sitting on the bench. Jake Diebler trusting Colin White over Brandon Knoll. They're late. He got an earful from Jake Diebler on multiple occasions during this game. He goes from being a starter to playing 18 minutes and getting benched for much of the second half in the last game against, who was that? West Virginia. I think he played 18 or 20 minutes in that game as a starter. Amari Bynum ends up playing way more minutes in that one. And the playing time just continues to shrink. Now he comes off the bench. He only plays 13 minutes. He didn't score. He missed 2 really, really, really good looks from deep. And he's just nowhere to be found at this point for Ohio State, which is a problem. But I think it also shows, which a lot of fans have wanted this, Amari Bynum's going to stay in the starting lineup for Ohio State. Another takeaway in this game, this offense continues to absorb shades of Chris Holtmann. As much as I hate to say it, it seems to be the fact at this point. The Ohio State offense continues, and this has now been a trend for a couple of games where they're not moving. It's a lot of dribbling. You got to reinflate the basketball at every media timeout because the Buckeyes are dribbling the air out of the ball. They start this game 0 of 5 from the field. Then they make 2 shots in a row, and then they miss their next 8. 6 of 24 overall to start. It felt like the ball stuck. You had several possessions where it's dribble, 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 dribble some more. Try to get into the paint. You get nothing. Dribble back out. Swing pass. Another swing pass. Ball screen. Bad shot. And that's the end of the possession. It's really, really weird how the emphasis has been, and when the season started as well, the emphasis was, I can tell you as a fact, inside that team, assist rate. We've got to score off assists this year. And they did that for a while. But the assist rate in this one, I'm not going to probably have the numbers. It's probably not going to be available to me at this point. But they had 17 assists on 25 made shots. That's actually pretty good. In the first half, though, I have a feeling this number is going to be a lot different. They had 17 assists. They had 7 assists on 7 field goals. So I guess I shouldn't ad-lib the stats. I guess it wasn't as bad, but especially the start of the first half. Really until they made that first run, they were down 27-20, and then they push. They push. They scored 12 points in the final 4 minutes of the first half. They looked really, really good. Until you get to that point, it was bad. This has got to stop. I mean, you lost by 1 point. What happens if players consistently move off the ball? What happens if you create for teammates? What happens if you set really good screens and someone gets open? You lost by 1 point. 1 point. That was it. If we have just one good possession, or we replace an average, or you replace a bad possession there in the first half with an average one, where it actually move in the second half, around 9 minutes left to go, we saw 2 possessions in a row. Whereas the exact same thing, and Bruce Thornton did score, I think, potentially on both the possessions that looked really bad, but that doesn't change the fact that they looked bad before that shot went in. So this has got to improve for Ohio State. It absolutely has to improve. You got Grambling State next, and then you go into Big Ten play, and the start of Big Ten play, it's a soft schedule. Buckeyes have got to get better here. It was ugly, and again, you lost by 1 point. If you had one better possession, what happens in this game? Ohio State's transition D was putrid in the first half. CBS, during the broadcast, they showcased how quickly North Carolina was scoring there. In the first half, they were running up and down the floor. Ohio State was not getting back in time. And again, you lost by 1 point. And I said on the show earlier this week, why is Ohio State optimistic about this game against North Carolina? Why are they optimistic about going into Big Ten play? Why are they optimistic about where they'll be in March? It's because a lot of the problems with Ohio State right now, it's self-inflicted. This is self-inflicted. This can be fixed. It's just a matter of going out and doing it. Get back on defense. Communicate on defense. It's the most elementary stuff. And some guy sitting here talking on a podcast can say that all day. Doesn't matter. I get it's easy to say, and I don't like the easy, lazy takes, but my gosh, get back on defense. North Carolina was only credited with 10 fast break points in this game. That's different, really, from transition points. So I guess we can go back and look at how many points they allowed in transition compared to fast break points alone. But it was bad in the first half, and that's a lot, really, really a lot of what allowed North Carolina to get up in the first half. And again, if you just get back there in the first half on one more possession, you just might win this game. I got to pause for a sip. Thank you. And merrily along we go. Next takeaway in this game. I was really, really impressed with Ohio State's physicality in this game. I said it on the preview show. I think we all know it. North Carolina is built by their front court. Ohio State was going to have to be physical against a team that ranks number 1 in all of the United States in average height. They are the biggest college basketball team in the world. Is North Carolina. You are going to have to be physical in this game. Amari Bynum, Christoph Tilley, they were strong to start this game. Ohio State, they set the tone early when it came to physicality in this game. That was really encouraging to see. At the end of this game, the rebounding margin was 0. Ohio State had 39 rebounds. North Carolina had 39 rebounds. That was it. I tell you what, when you're going up against Vasar, when you're going up against Caleb Williams, when you're going up against a team overall that everyone on the team except for 1 and now 2, maybe with Seth Trembleback, I don't know his height. I didn't record that on the pregame show, but you look at everyone on this team who's 6'6" or taller. I mean, my goodness. You get to a point where you're concerned about how is Ohio State going to perform in this game? How are they going to do rebounding? You're going to have to be tough. You're going to have to be tough, and they were. I was really, really proud to see Ohio State do that in this game because I challenged them. I think the game against West Virginia, just one game ago in the pregame show, I challenged Ohio State there, and Ohio State stepped up in this one. I'm sure they play the show all the time there in the Schott. They really care what I have to say. All right. Let's talk about what everyone's really here for, and that is how this game ended. I do have thoughts. We'll start with the turnover because that's what happened first, okay? So on the turnover, here's what we have. Ohio State, they get the ball, you get a timeout, you come out, and there's no excuse. There's no excuse for turning the ball over, with a caveat that I'll talk about at the end. There's no excuse for turning the ball over here when you're coming out of a timeout. You have got to get the ball past half court. There's absolutely nothing that can be said when Jake Diebler has the ability to talk with his team and Bruce Thornton can lead his team out on the floor, and all you have to do is move the ball 40 some feet across half court in 10 seconds. Easier said than done, obviously, we saw in this game. You just have to do it. My questions. I don't criticize in hindsight. This is what I'm asking as I'm watching this unfold, as I'm watching Ohio State's players trot out to inbound the ball. Why on God's green earth were Bruce Thornton and John Mobley Jr. the only ball handlers on the floor? Why was Tayson Chapman sitting down next to his coaches? Why was Gabe Cupps sitting down next to his coaches? I get it. I get you need size. I get why Devin Royal or Christoph Tilley should be out there. Why is Colin White out there? I don't know. Obviously, he's guilty of the turnover. He's the culprit here. Whoever's out there, I don't care. I have nothing against Colin White. He's been on this show multiple times. I love Colin White. I root for him and all that stuff, but I don't think this is the spot for him. Brandon Knoll, clearly no trust in him, but the fact that you have two guys, you have more guys who you don't trust to dribble than you have who you do trust to dribble when the freaking game is on the line. Why is it just John Mobley Jr. and Bruce Thornton who are out there who can dribble? I don't get that. There was no reason to believe that North Carolina was going to foul until they got to half court. They were going to try to force a turnover. Obviously, it's simple. That's what you're going to do. So you should probably have a bunch of ball handlers out there. You're not going to be expected to score in the half court. Why? Because once you get to the half court, you will get fouled, which means you should have free throw shooters out there. And do you want Tayson Chapman? Do you want Gabe Cupps going to the free throw line? Maybe not. I get that. But before you can even worry about the free throw line, you got to get past the half court line. So that was the biggest gripe I had with that play that I would challenge. And I hope that no one in or around the program listens to this part of the show and then calls me and says, "You idiot, this is why." And then at that point, I have to retract my statement and I look dumb. But until then, I don't get it. I'd love to hear an answer for it. I don't get it. You have one timeout, by the way. So even if you're in the spot where you're in the half court and you don't like where you're at, you can call the timeout once you get in the half court, but you're never going to get there because you're going to get fouled. I would gladly take out Colin White and Devin Royal for Tayson Chapman and Gabe Cupps. Again, I get you need size in that situation. I didn't understand it whatsoever. Now, there's a caveat here, okay? Jake Diebler tried to call a timeout. He did. And I don't know. Let's look together, actually. You and I, we're just going to sit down. We're going to pull up the cesspool that is Twitter right now and check to see if we have any answers. Adam Jardy was at the game. You got to be following Adam Jardy. Let's see. We're not seeing any quotes here, at least on Twitter, from Adam Jardy. So I don't know what Jake Diebler said about this after the game. I don't know if Adam Jardy asked him about this after the game, but the timeout. This is probably going to get a lot of attention. I mean, I'll just look at this play right now. We've got over 12,000 views on the actual replay that I tweeted where Ohio State turned it over. And then I also tweeted after, it looked like Jake Diebler was trying to call a timeout. And that one has just over 1,000 views. So about 13,000 people at this point are going to see that Jake Diebler is calling a timeout. And Ohio State, who I think that we should revoke his Twitter overall, but that's a conversation for another day. He tweeted as well this, and I think other people are now starting to see and tweet, and this is going to pick up some steam that Jake Diebler tried to call a timeout here. So people are going to notice. It's going to get some traction. Look, yes, Ohio State should have gotten the timeout. When Jake Diebler was calling for the timeout, Colin White had possession of the ball in his hands. Should have been a timeout for Ohio State. And yes, it probably does make a difference. Yeah, Ohio State probably comes away with a win in this game. If you do get that timeout, I usually don't allow one minor detail, one play, one shot to change my opinion on a game. So I'm not even going to do it here because you never know. Maybe you do get the timeout and then North Carolina still gets a steal and they go score on the other end. Ohio State still loses. I don't know, but that's a big deal. And for those trashing Jake Diebler for losing this game, look, he got Ohio State into that situation. Sure, Ohio State should have got a timeout there. Jake Diebler kind of slightly off the hook in this one. Slightly. Don't clip this and run with it and say that I have the opinion that it's not Jake Diebler's fault that they lost this game because at the end of the day, he's head coach. So, yeah, it's kind of his fault. But he's slightly off the hook. All right. One more sip, please. I'm doing what I can. And if I get too loud, it really makes me want to cough. So I got to relax. So let's talk about the final play. Here's my opinion on it. I don't care. I find it very hard for me to give a crap about the final play where John Mobley Jr. misses the three. Because Ohio State should have never been in that situation. They should have never lost the ball. They, in turn, shouldn't have allowed points to North Carolina. In turn, they should have needed to make a shot with 4 seconds left. So I don't care. What I care about is a turnover. But regardless, we'll talk about it. I see people complaining about Bruce Thornton inbounding. I don't know, man. I'm not the X's and O's guys. I don't really care about that. Look, if he's not inbounding and you have Colin White inbounding, for example, you can now funnel a bunch of pressure toward Bruce Thornton and John Mobley Jr. Who's going to score at that point? You can inbound it to Devin Royal. You can inbound it to Colin White. Brandon Knowles sitting on the bench. Can't inbound it to him. But my thought process is you can kind of essentially double John Mobley Jr. and Bruce Thornton on the inbound, allow Devin Royal to get it. And maybe that's what should have happened is Devin Royal got it. And instead of John Mobley Jr. getting the shot, you're spinning. The paint is wide open. You go draw a foul because that's what Devin Royal does. We just saw it against West Virginia. But that said, I don't really care that Bruce Thornton was the inbounder on that play. Colin White receives a screen, and he's the decoy going to the corner. He's got both arms and hands raised in the air like he wants the ball. Not a single man, woman, or child bought that Colin White was going to get the ball in that play, but that's fine. You got to get some action. John Mobley Jr., by the way, he did get a pretty good look. I mean, 4 seconds left. You put that three up. I get you're down by 1. It was a pretty good look. And here's the thing. I know a lot of people complaining about John Mobley Jr. taking the 3 or Ohio State planning to take the 3, and you're only down by 1. You only need a 2. That's fine. Here's the thing. There's 4 seconds left in the game, first of all. Second of all, you're not inbounding from the baseline. You're inbounding from the sideline, which means the ability to get the ball into the paint instantly, it's going to be really hard to do. Much easier to do when you're inbounding from the baseline. So it would have been hard to get anything else. And you want enough time for the chance to get a second shot up in the case that you miss your first shot. Guess what? John Mobley Jr., he missed his 3. Devin Royal got the rebound. He had enough time to get that second shot up for Ohio State. He missed, but I'm fine with it. John Mobley Jr. has been more than clutch for Ohio State. Look what he did against West Virginia. He gets the opportunity here, and he misses, and I get that, but I can't complain about those shots because I want Ohio State to get a chance for a second shot. The only thing that I might have done differently is get Devin Royal the ball at the elbow and clear everyone else the heck out and allow him to try to go score at the rim and hopefully draw a foul. Other than that, I can't really complain. And again, by the way, Brandon Knoll, not trusted here when the game is on the line and you need a score. You can't even trust Brandon Knoll to be the decoy. I mean, if he's got his eyes up and his hands are up, he's streaking to the 3-point line in the corner. Does Vasar have to follow him instead of Colin White to the 3-point line? Maybe, but that's weird. That's weird to me. So all in all, I can't really complain about the final play. I get why Ohio State did what they did. They missed the shots. They lost. Everyone's upset. If they do the exact same thing, they make the shots, they win. No one complains. One more sip. I lied. One more sip. This is a struggle, and I'm about to go on a minor monologue here, so it's time to lock in. All right, here's the deal with Ohio State at this point. This team should be 10-1, and you can pin the blame wherever you want. You can pin it on Jake Diebler. You can pin it on the players who have suffered turnovers against Illinois and now against North Carolina. And DeMarco Minor, he makes a fluky 3 to beat Ohio State at the buzzer, the second straight loss on a buzzer beater to Pitt. Go ahead and disagree that 3 is fluky if you want. I don't care. It's fluky. They absolutely should have won this game against North Carolina. So the question is, now what? Is this team closer to 10-1, or are they closer to 8-3? And look, until I'm given data to be convinced otherwise, I don't see how anyone can see this team as an NCAA tournament team right now. That doesn't mean that things can't change, but I'm making this opinion on December 20th, hours after Ohio State just lost to North Carolina. And my opinion, from the 11 games we've seen from Ohio State so far this season, we don't have data to support that this is an NCAA tournament team. It could change. Right now, I don't think it's an NCAA tournament team. I said it after the loss to Illinois. I maintain the opinion. NCAA tournament teams do not do this, okay? Look at all the data we have. NCAA tournament teams don't lose to Pitt. They don't go to double overtime with West Virginia and barely win. Sure, the resume for West Virginia, or you look at West Virginia's loss to Wake Forest, and Wake Forest resume isn't that bad considering what they've done. I don't care. You don't go to double overtime with West Virginia if you're a shoo-in in the NCAA tournament at this point. You don't get little brothered by Illinois for nearly 40 minutes. You don't get pushed to the limit against a Northwestern team that has 5 losses, and it's December 20th. I don't care who you played. 5 losses on December 20th. That's not good. You can do maybe one of these things, okay? Maybe 2. But with the combination of all the data that we have from Notre Dame all the way now to North Carolina, I don't think there's any reason to believe that right now we should say, oh yeah, this is definitely an NCAA tournament team. Oh yeah, this team is closer to 10-1 than 8-3. We have way too much data at this point. We're a third of a way through the season. Ohio State has played enough games against big-time competition to say this looks like a team that's going to get an invite to the crown, and they'll have to decide if they want to take it or not. Last year, they didn't take it. Do they take it this year? I don't know. They hope they don't get that invite. They hope they're in the NCAA tournament. But with the data that we have right now, it doesn't support Ohio State being an NCAA tournament team. That doesn't mean that doesn't change. But as of December 20th, we can hope and wish cast our way to Ohio State kind of convincing itself as an NCAA tournament team. And we can look at the stupid bracketologists as if that matters in December. At this point, no. This is not an NCAA tournament team. It's not. You don't have these results game over game, win or lose, and convince me that this is an NCAA tournament team. And you know me. You know I'm measured. You know I'm not reactive. You know I'm not emotional. At this point, strip the Ohio State logo. Put a different OSU one on. Oregon State, Oklahoma State, doesn't matter. Don't care. You put those exact same results on those teams, bracketologists aren't putting them in the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry. They're not. And one reminder here, as you lament the loss here on Ohio State, I feel like I need to remind people of this. The standard for this Ohio State team is not the same as the standard for the Ohio State men's basketball program. If you hold this specific team to the standard of 2012 in that team, it's only going to result in disappointment. Am I happy with where Ohio State basketball is right now? No. Do I love that people tweet fire Diebler after every game, win or lose? No, it's pretty freaking annoying. Do I agree with where Ohio State is right now? Am I happy? Am I amused? No, obviously I am not. But at this point, the standard for Ohio State is not where it was. That's not what the standard's going to be for this team. The sooner you accept that, the easier it's going to be to get through this season and the following seasons until Ohio State returns to where you want it to be. Look, Twitter accounts, they get monetized solely off of one tweet because they have a lot of followers. They get one tweet after a loss to North Carolina. It's lazy. They didn't watch the game. They check the box score and they say, typical Ohio State. Here we go with Jake Diebler again. Ross Bjork, what are you doing? Let me tag you 19 times after the loss. Maybe that'll get something to change. It won't. I'm not going to traffic in that. It's annoying and it's lazy and it's not what I do on this show. And if you've listened to the show for a while, you know that. But I'm not going to make those lazy takes, even though everyone else will. But those people have got to realize the standard for this team is not to win 25 games and be in the double bye conversation in the Big Ten tournament and potentially be a protected seed in the NCAA tournament. Hey, by the way, to those Twitter accounts who get monetized for just trashing Ohio State basketball, define a protected seed for me. I bet you can. But you're an expert on Ohio State basketball. Even though you make one or two tweets about the Ohio State basketball team, and you had 7 tweets about Ohio State football or other college football playoff stuff while the Ohio State basketball team is playing North Carolina. Make it make sense. I can't. Here's what we all need to realize, okay? The complaining about the coaches, calling out players, shrinking this team to the point where everyone is like, well, I guess Ohio State sucks because everyone hates them. It's useless. It's completely useless. Number one, I will tell you this. Jake Diebler's not going anywhere. Jake Diebler is not going anywhere in the short term. I can promise you that. There's not going to be any changes made in the short term. And here's the thing. This is something we need to remember as humans. This is why I have as many players, as many coaches, as many staff members on the show as I do during the summer. It's that we need to see that they are humans just like us. They have emotions. Yeah, they're paid a lot of money to win basketball games. That doesn't just cancel out the fact that these guys have feelings and they work hard too. And just because they make a lot of money doesn't mean they deserve to be trashed all the time, okay? Their livelihood is a distraction from our own. They watch film while they eat. They think through situational basketball as they tuck their kids into bed. They miss family time to be at early morning workouts with their players. This coaching staff isn't just like not trying. It's not like they don't care. This means something to us as fans, as people who follow the team, but we go to work on Monday with no material change to our livelihood other than maybe complaining about it with some coworkers, okay? These players, these coaches, they're locked in. It's way different from them. So I love the passion behind the Ohio State fan base. I'm passionate too. But this will always mean more to them than it means to you. I'm not trying to be holier than thou. I'm not trying to be condescending. I just think the visceral reactions minute by minute, even when Ohio State ends up winning a game, like the Northwestern game and the West Virginia game when they're down by 16, they come back and win. You guys got to go delete some tweets, but, well, we'll still get monetized. We'll leave them up. It's fine. Tagging people, tagging Jake Diebler, tagging Ross Bjork. God forbid you tag players. That's insane, but that's as helpful as a screen door on a submarine. We're not getting anywhere with that. So fans need to understand that even in a loss against North Carolina, even as I just said, right now this doesn't look like an NCAA tournament team, you have got to relax. This means way more to them than it does to you. They are in this every single day, every hour. They work on this. They work on this and they think about this more than you could ever imagine. So fans have got to settle in and relax. This team cannot have the same standard as the program does. This team cannot have the same standard as the teams under Thad Matta. They're not in the same place. Does it mean it should always be that way? No, obviously not. But fans have got to settle in to what this season and what the next couple seasons may look like under Ohio State basketball, whether it's Jake Diebler or someone else. Those are my thoughts on this game. I told my wife I'd be up here for about 30 minutes. I lied, unfortunately. So I apologize for that to my wife, who does not watch the show or listen to it. But she still supports it, which I appreciate. So Ohio State They got Grambling State coming up here in the next couple of days. I'll preview that game for you. Almost sound like I was going to cuss there. Never. Family show. I will preview that game for you against Grambling State. We'll recap it. We'll move on. We'll see what Ohio State does in Big Ten play. For now, I'm sorry that Ohio State lost, okay? If it makes you mad, if it makes you feel any better, me personally, I'm sorry. I bet those players and coaches would be too. We move on. Okay, that's the best we can do. It's a wonderful time of year. If you don't hear from me again, well, you can hear from me. I'll preview Grambling State. But if you don't listen to that game, I hope you have a very, very, very Merry Christmas. I hope you have a very special Christmas, a special holiday. Enjoy the time with your family, with your friends, and all that. I know it can be a hard time of year for a lot of people. You're loved. Hope you have a wonderful Christmas. Until next time, I shut up. Before you shut me off, go Bucks.